5, 4, 3.
It's showtime.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Welcome to the party, pal!
See you at the party, Richter. I didn't kill my wife. I don't care.
Get away from her, you bitch!
I'll be back.
I'll be back. You did not going to say that, did you?
What I do have are a very particular set of skills.
To do the binds.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Inconceivable!
Little Dallas multi-pass.
This is a tasty burger.
Please.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
I'm the bad guy?
And halt. Smash.
I can speak with an English accent. Hit the hash pipe and join the National Guard. I could be elected president.
You went over my helmet?
What would you prefer? Yellow spandex? I know, right?
The list is in the open.
Hey, where are the white women at?
They're digging in the wrong place.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Are you not entertained?
Second start of the ride. And straight on till morning.
Meow.
You son of a bitch.
1.21 gigawatts.
Wax on, wax off.
Oh my goodness, I am sporting a tremendous woody right now.
Bartender is the aristocrat of the working class.
You want to flip 6-3 whole play and you could score.
Cover me.
Dogs and cats living together. Fastest carrier. On this team, we fight for that itch.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
No ticket.
No ticket.
I get older, they stay the same age.
It's not what you know. It's what you can prove.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. He's 15.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Hope is a good thing. Maybe the best of things. And no good thing ever dies.
Good evening, and welcome to the Reel McCoy. I'm your host, Meffistoe, and usually with me, my hetero life mate, All My Feelings. But today, my other friend, Tom, is here. How you doing, Tom?
Hello.
You can eat. It's fine. I don't need you on camera. I'm not a slave driver like Mr. Kadish. What is the Reel McCoy, you might ask? The Reel McCoy is your movie. It's your weekly movie podcast where we ask you to go watch a movie, you watch it, come back to us, and we break it down for you. This month, the month of March is called It's Graphic, where we cover all sorts of graphical novels that have been adapted into movies. Now, today is kind of a massaged novel because it's not really a graphical novel, but it is a limited series comic book by Mark Millar called Kick-Ass, adapted into a movie, and we'll talk about that. Tom, have you managed to watch this in theaters?
I don't know if I did or not. I'm trying to remember if I saw it in theater, if I just finally saw it on. I think I just saw it on video when it came out.
Yeah, me too. I think I didn't rent a DVD. I think I waited for it to hit cable because I used to watch a lot of stuff that hit the DVD. As soon as I hit DVD, it immediately appeared on. Back in the day, I had like 3 movie channels. One of them was like every time there's a 3 months after the theaters, it went to DVD. Then immediately it's a new release on one of those channels. So it was fun. A fun little romp. Didn't quite enjoy it the first time I watched it. Since then, I actually watched it a few more times, and the more times I watch it, I kind of find new stuff to appreciate about it. This time around, it's because I completely forgot who's in the cast. And all the different intricacies of who was in who in different movies. We'll talk about that. All right, let's say hello to the chat. We'll say hello to Kaladin, Penny, who else? The lovely Sherry, Jillian H, and Juliet, and all the other lurkers that are lurking around in different channels, different avenues, different platforms. Thank you all the lurkers that are coming around and coming from the Salty Nerd podcast. I know some of you enjoy the movie talk rather than going off to Brian. So I will thank Mr. Kadish for lots and lots of help, because when he can, he will send everybody here, but most of the time he will send off to Brian. Of course, it's their friendship. So I no hard feelings. Throughout the past year, he's been helping a lot. He's been sending messages, really, really nice, really encouraging messages. So I really want to thank Matthew Kadish for everything that he's done ever since I've met him in real life last April when I went to the States and visited him in Las Vegas. So thank you. All right. Kick-Ass is the thing, and we start like we do on every single week. It is Behind the Screens.
Sound production, take 2.
Behind the Screens is where we turn to me and get the lowdown on everything that is behind the scenes, production-wise. And I have to say that there is so little information about what went down with production stuff. So I'm going to give you what I have. And all the rest is sort of, like I said, the connections between the cast and kind of a weird amalgam. So, movie was based, as I said, on Mark Millar's Kick-Ass comics. However, they kind of sold the rights for the movie while developing the comic itself and ended up producing both sort of parallel to each other.
Yeah, so it's kind of like 2001 in that respect.
Kind of, yeah.
For those who don't know, the author of 2001 was writing the book at the same time the movie was being made. So Kubrick had his version, and then the author had their version, which were, had some vast differences. But it's kind of the same thing here, and almost even more differences in a way, especially the third act, right? Because and it makes you wonder if the last book wasn't written yet by the time they got.
It wasn't.
So I like the movie's ending better than the book's ending. The book takes it into a darker kind of turn, but yeah.
You know what I do when both me and Feelings do research for these movies, sometimes we come across some things that are contradictory because, depending on which website you're looking at, it's like IMDb is so unreliable, but sometimes I have to look just to have like corroborating evidence, as we say, and make sure what's written on one side is written on the other side.
Yeah, and I know very little about this too, yeah.
So on one hand, Mark Millar said that Vaughn's interpretation is a little bit too chick flicky in what they did with the Katie and Dave situation, which was not in the book. The whole them falling in love, the whole she's a lesbian or maybe not a lesbian, she thinks he's gay, so they have that involvement. And then when everything gets revealed, then it becomes like a love interest for him. That's not in the books. And on the other side, Mark Millar ended up really loving the film adaptation as opposed to what they did with the comic book. So I don't know. And
you got the thing at the end with the blowjob and everything too, or whatever, which is it just takes it off into this weird, like, not that the movie and show and the story isn't already a weird place. Here's the thing: is Matthew Vaughn, I think, understood with the movie because here's the thing with the comic book compared to the movie. Like, if you ever seen the movie Super, it feels like the movie Super has the same tone as the comic book has, as opposed to the movie, which this movie is made with the same idea that Revenge of the Nerds is you can be just as grody and gross and bad as you want, as long as you have a sweet undertone to the movie. And the reason the movie works is because Kick-Ass is so naive and sweet, and you want to see him succeed because his conviction is genuine. He's asking just a simple question: why aren't people helping? Right? So then he makes the stupid decision that he does, and it leads to all these events, right? Like, so the movie plays with it in a much more innocent, sweet way, and that works for when you do the more grotesque and violent aspects of the film, to where by the time you get to the end of Super, I left that movie I love the first 2/3 of this film, but that last third gets so brutal I don't like it. It almost gets too real. And I feel like if you'd have done that here in this film, it would have ruined it, and it would have really hurt the movie's tone.
They came
overall.
close.
Yeah, they did.
They came close, but then that last scene where they just tied everything with a bow, that kind of made it up for that like really brutal ending. Jillian, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. I didn't want to stop Tom right there with the
sorry, I had a
flow of
rant.
words. No, it's all good. It's all good. I'm sure Jillian understands. It's all about entertainment. What I was gonna say is, it seems to me that the difference between the comic book and the movie is the comic book is from a perspective of a comic book writer, and the movie is from the perspective of a comic book reader.
True, and it actually
trying to interpret what the author meant, and then displaying it as a movie rather than a comic book, which is it's a very interesting thought, because I thought about it today when I was just writing stuff. Where was I? Big Daddy. One of the differences, before I get to the other stuff, Big Daddy's main difference is, first of all, in the book, he doesn't look like Batman. He actually looks like the Shadow without the hat. So he has this reddish kind of a mask over his mouth, so you don't see the mouth move. And in the book, he's not an ex-cop, he's an accountant. But in order to make things work, they made him into an ex-cop, disgraced, and his partner took care of his daughter, all that stuff. And the whole montage of Big Daddy and sort of that exposition dump that you have in the middle of the movie, kind of explaining that whole thing, when it goes into a comic book stage, that's where John Romita Jr., who illustrated the books, here we go. Now, I've seen a version where it doesn't go all the way up to his face. It actually stays where his nose is, which is really reminiscent of the Shadow. So John Romita Jr., who illustrated this, was the one who illustrated the comic book montage. So I thought it was kind of nice, kind of a nice homage to both Mark Millar and the illustrator. Cool. Matthew Vaughn went to a few studios and got rejected a lot, even though at the time, this was 2010, but I think it started during 2008. And this is after we had Road to Perdition, we had Watchmen, we had, I think Sin City was 2008 or 6. So there were
somewhere around there, yeah. I think 2005, but yeah.
Yeah, some graphical adaptations, but he couldn't get any studios to go, so he had to raise his money on his own. So it is technically an independent movie. And then, of course, he sold it to, I think Lionsgate is on the title, but I think he sold it to Universal, and then the distributor was Lionsgate. Anyway, today
Universal has the sequel, I know that, but like, yeah, I'm not 100% sure on how that went, but you're right, because at that time period, this is still pre-Avengers, right? So superhero movies were okay.
Iron Man was out.
Yeah, but Avengers wasn't. Yeah, my point is the people weren't quite up to this snuff or up to this idea. We hadn't had the big $1 billion superhero movie outside of, I think, Dark Knight at that point. And it was kind of like a tougher sell, right? Because I think even just before this, this is around the same time, I think things like Watchmen failed at the box office and a few other.
It did?
I'm
not so sure. I'm not so sure. Despite the fact that it's the best Snyder movie. I know I'm not going to bring his name up today.
You mean as far as, I thought you meant when it came out or when it, how much?
No. The Watchmen. Watchmen came out 2009. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it came out the year before. It only made $185 million at the box office.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Too bad.
In domestic, it only did 107. Okay. So, yeah, it didn't do great overall, and I think it cost way too much. But like, yeah, so this was kind of a hard sell at the time. I can see why Matthew Vaughn and Millar probably were having a hard time getting anybody to buy into this. And it sounds to me like if Lionsgate was the distributor, they probably found a way to get a bunch of foreign money involved.
Probably.
Yeah.
Because from what from the rest of the story with Matthew Vaughn is he raised enough money, was in the process of making the movie, and while he was making the movie, they sold it to Universal, and he got all of his money back. So he was like dipping into investors and stuff, and they all got their money back before even the movie came out. So on his end,
yeah.
So it's sort of an independent movie, but not really, because it had like a good massive release. In terms of
this
casting,
film did really well in comparison to its budget. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I didn't actually check this time, but
it did about 96.2 million according to this. Let me see.
Yeah, and the budget was like 18, 19.
Yeah, it was pretty cheap. Yeah.
For the role of Big Daddy, Daniel Craig, Mark Wahlberg, and Brad Pitt were up for the role. Brad Pitt is an actual friend of Matthew Vaughn, and they were seriously talking about him doing the role, but then he got an offer to do Inglourious Bastards, who came out 2009, but he was working on it for a very long time, so he couldn't actually.
I think it's meant to be.
Anything.
I don't think anybody else could have pulled off the way Nick Cage does it here.
Especially at the end where he gets burned and
right?
you get such a Wicker Man vibe. Well, I watched it today and I laughed my ass off. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, you know what he's doing, right?
No.
Oh, you serious? Like, it's pretty obvious to me. It's like, there's only one way to do this role. It's as Adam West Batman.
Oh, yeah. He was. No.
He's Adam West Batman through the whole movie.
No.
That's what he's doing.
I thought you meant the burning part. No.
Oh, no. Well, that was just a reaction to him doing
The whole point is he accepted the role. He knew they were going for a Batman kind of a ripoff. And he said, I hate the Christian Bale raspy voice thing. I'm just going to do Adam West as a homage for Adam West.
And it works so well here. And it plays into the character like this twisted sense of how he could get to this place, right? And you have his former partner, who kind of at least alerts the audience that he's not a complete nut job.
Yes.
But he has clearly went over the edge with this thing. And because you got to sit there and you got to say, okay, you got to ask the audience to accept this character, not only being a good guy, but a good guy who raised his daughter and trained her as a fucking assassin.
Yeah. Because the first time you meet them, he literally shoots his daughter, not once, 3 times. And you're like, wait a minute, is that the good guy? Who is this guy? And he talks so weird. If you
they have
don't
to make
know
this
Adam
character.
West,
yeah. Well, not just that. You have to make this character so likable that when he does burn at the end, you give a shit.
Yes, exactly. You really give a shit. Although he does cageisms to the max. It was so beautiful. It was exquisitely beautiful. Another thing is Christopher Mintz-Plasse, also known as McLovin. Poor guy. He was auditioning for the role of Kick-Ass. Couldn't get it, but he got the role of the Red Mist.
He's great as Red Mist.
Yeah,
though.
he is. He is. And it's really not McLovin. He is different. He is very different, which is good.
And it's because of this movie I was convinced he could actually do other things, right? Because I saw Superbad and I'm like, oh, this kid's going to be forever McLovin. He's never going to be able to do anything else. Seen him in a few other movies. He basically played the same kind of roles. All of a sudden you see him in this finally. It's like, okay, now I can see this kid can act. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the
Of course, I'm calling him a
connections.
kid, and he's probably the same age as me. But anyway, sorry.
He's probably like 39 now. Katie, the character of Katie, mentions Scott Pilgrim, who the star of it is Michael Cera, which played in Superbad with Christopher. More connections. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who in this movie is called Aaron Johnson for some reason.
Yeah.
And this is why I always thought, wait a minute, he's British, but he's got a great American accent. Like you cannot tell he's British. He went out to play Quicksilver in Avengers Age of Ultron. His best friend one of his best friends is Evan Peters, who played Quicksilver in X-Men Days of Future Past, which is a movie that Matthew Vaughn wrote after he directed X-Men First Class. So there's a lot of different connections.
Yeah, it does get kind of convoluted with all the yarn and the 6 degrees of separation in this.
Oh, there's more. I thought those.
As far as his name, I don't know why he ever changed his name unless there was like some other Aaron Johnson at some point, and since he just maybe changed it just to differentiate himself or something.
I
maybe
strike it to like a Hollywood thing where it's like you're called Knox, so it's a CK at the end to make sure you're different from the other Knox there is. I'm just inventing a name.
Well, that and like Aaron Johnson is so plain, and it doesn't have like a explosion to it. Like you need something in the name for like when they say something, it's like Tom Cruise. You know, that name has a crackle to it, like Aaron Johnson. This falls flat. Now, Aaron Taylor Johnson. You got to have a hard crackle to it, and that having a strong syllable or something in the middle always helps. Yeah.
To be fair, I never made the connection between the Age of Ultron and Kick-Ass. And also, I've never made the connection between those two and then his role in Bullet Train, which I absolutely love. That my favorite version of Aaron Taylor Johnson, apart from Nosferatu, but let's put that aside, is actually in Bullet Train.
Well, I know we pick on Pedro Pascal. I was going to say for being in a lot of movies, but Aaron Taylor Johnson is quickly overtaking Kevin Bacon as far as you could probably 6 degrees separate most of his roles now because of how much stuff he's done in different things.
Yeah, and I'm mentioning that just because of that Brad Pitt connection to Matthew Vaughn. It's like I said, there's so many different connections here. It's insane. By the way, side note, apart from Bond, which, you know, neither here or there, I want Guy Ritchie to write another crime drama and put Aaron Taylor Johnson as one of those characters. I don't care how he does it, just make it happen. And if you put Brad Pitt in it, that'll be great too.
Yeah.
Chloe Gross or Grass Moretz. She had a very nice, let's say, intro to her character as she says the C word quite obviously as she bursts through the door where the drug dealers are. She wasn't supposed to say the C word. Her mom, who was on set, suggested it to Matthew Vaughn, and she said, yes, she can say it the once because it will help you with the sort of introduction to the persona, because we've seen her take a bullet, but we haven't seen the persona yet. And she nailed it. Also, she said in an interview later down the line, she said that back then, if she would have said anything close to what she said on the movie as the character, she would be grounded until the age of 20. That's how strict her household was. I don't know how that fits with the mom saying the C word, but it is what it is.
And she looks like she was a pretty seasoned actress already by the time she did this movie, surprisingly. I know this was the movie that kind of put her on the map, but I'm just looking at her filmography here, and I can't believe she started acting when she was like, what, 5 or 6 years old, must have? She's in all sorts of movies and TV shows as the kid. Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
She was, and I forgot she was even in the Amityville Horror, the remake with Ryan Reynolds and stuff. Yeah, she's the little girl. Wow. Yeah. I totally spaced that out. Yeah.
Well, if she's that deep in Hollywood, she must. Well,
when she did this,
up.
like she was the talk of the film, right? Like, because everybody was talking about how just how good she was in the movie, B, the fact that she handled the character with such maturity and just presence, and I mean, she steals the show. I mean, as soon as she comes on screen, every word she says, everything she does, she is kind of the star. Like she kind of sidelines Aaron Taylor at that moment, but like, you know, that old rule of don't work with kids and monkeys and
yeah,
shit like that. Yeah.
Well, it's sort of weird because what she does in the movie in the real world doesn't work. But within the confines of this movie, it works really well because up until the last scene where you realize, okay, when she faces off a guy who knows how to counterpunch, even slightly, she is dead. She's an 11-year-old girl. I have a 13-year-old girl, and she hits pretty hard. I can take a lot.
They still do a pretty good job. I mean, first of all, look, we know it's a comic book. Second,
yeah, it's a comic
we've
book
seen
thing,
Big Daddy raise her from the moment. Like, this is the one thing I will say about this, because you could throw some Mary Sue-isms at Hit Girl, but I'll be like, no. She was literally raised from the moment she was born to being this assassin. So yes, I get it. She knows she doesn't. See, that's the thing. The beauty of her characters is she knows her weaknesses usually, and she knows her strengths. Yes. In this case is that one time where she got caught off guard, and also, you know, the whole thing later with Big Daddy and stuff, like earlier with Big Daddy getting killed and all that stuff. Like, yeah, that whole thing with her is her vulnerability, but because she even tells him, you know, I'll never let it happen again, right? Because to her, she knows this is in and out. Like, she knows everything about this kind of stuff. She even is constantly teaching Aaron Taylor Johnson throughout the film. And I can believe this because she's been drilled, and we see this through Big Daddy constantly. Everything's a game to her. Like, he even says it to his partner.
That is the main, that was the main difference for me. Apart from the power differences, like I said, real world shit, we'll put that aside just because it's a comic book movie. She is not a Mary Sue just for the mere fact that she grew up. You don't see all the trainings, but
you get
every interactions that she has with Big Daddy, you get the inkling that she knows what she's talking about because her father taught her. She knows about the guns. She knows about the where to stick knives. She knows, you know, where to get stuff online. She knows what does where, how, and like she's aware of her ammo. All that stuff is there because it was taught. She doesn't just pick up a gun and suddenly full of gangsters.
Well, every scene leading up to that is showing us, okay, the first scene we see is she gets shot 3 fucking times by her dad, right? To say, okay, so honey, this is what's going to happen when it happens to you. So she's prepared for it. Same thing, like, you got to guarantee, like, almost everything he's taught her has been like, okay, so if you're taking on a guy that's bigger than me, what do? Right? And he's taught her everything she has to do to get out of that situation, right? Go for the groin, go for the ankles, go for this, go for that, cut his Achilles tendon, cut him down to where you're on an equal playing field. Then you fight him face to face. Before that, use your weapons, use what you got around you. She knows all these things. And that's when she meets Kick-Ass. And at first she likes him, but then she realizes her dad's right. He's going to get himself fucking killed because he has no clue what he's fucking doing.
Exactly. And that's what got him. That's what got him the sort of that whole graph thing that she's like, he wakes up and he looks at the x-rays. Is like, oh shit, I look like Wolverine. And that gives us the whole premise of how he got his powers or perceived powers. And he even says that I don't really have any power. I just got like nerve endings are numb and I can get my ass kicked and it doesn't really hurt that much. And then he really gets his ass kicked. It's like, even though I have these numb things, that really hurt.
My nerve endings are damaged or whatever. Yeah,
it's that whole point. And we'll say hello to Sander and James that just cut with us. This production stuff this is Matthew Vaughn's company. His kids actually designed this because he thought, well, why not? I just thought it was endearing because it went on and I was like, oh, that's an interesting logo. Let's just watch the movie. Then the Lionsgate pops up and I was like, oh shit, please don't let it be. I guess I remembered the movie, but sometimes, like I said, things can surprise you. I remembered it correctly. The Lionsgate thing is just a recent thing, I guess. What a
They
movie.
might have video distribution. Maybe they bought the video rights. Because yeah, you're right. Universal does have full rights to the sequel.
Yes. So we got a little introduction of Dave and his friends. The guy on the left is Clark Duke, if I'm not mistaken, or is it not? I don't remember. Anyway, he's the guy I remember him from Hot Tub Time Machine. That's where I remember him from, the kid from Hot Tub Time Machine. And like I said, I completely forgot it's actually Aaron Taylor Johnson. I didn't make the connection. And you get a little bit of a taste on, and he explains it. I'm not a nerd. I'm not a geek, even though they're pretty geeky comic book guys, but we'll put that aside. I'm not a jock. I'm not one of the cool kids. I
didn't lose one of my parents to a bad guy or any of that thing.
Yeah. But he does explain the fact that his mom kind of
dies of an aneurysm. Yeah.
Yeah. And nothing really happened. We just continued on with our lives. Kind of not making a big deal. I thought it was a big deal, but it actually does connect him and Hit Girl, where they both lost their moms.
Yes.
Him at a later stage, her at a very early stage.
But it doesn't appear to bother him on the surface level. You're correct. Yes.
Not as much as you would think. And of course, we get introduced to the bad guys.
I think there's also a connection there with Red Mist, who I think also doesn't have a mother. They don't address it here.
He does have a mother.
Does he?
Yes, and that has surprised me. The first time it actually surprised me. Now, people don't know this because...
Oh, right, that's right. She is in that one scene. You're right. Yep.
Yeah, do you know who the actress is? It's an
I don't
actress
recall
that
offhand, but
lost through time. Her name is Yancy Butler. Now, I know her from a TV show. She played a cop or something. Not really a profiler, but a very smart detective who became a cop, something like that. But she played the female lead in Hard Target with Van Damme. And she completely disappeared. And when I saw this, and people forget, she's like in one scene or two scenes or something like that. She barely has any
I totally
lines.
forgot she existed. Yeah.
And I literally...
And I just watched it last night. Yeah.
I jumped up and I said, Yancy Butler. And I'm the only guy who knows what her name is. Of course, Mark Strong of this. And what I love, and I did mention Guy Ritchie before, the guy to his left was in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. The guy who plays the doorman who got taken the gun, and then they returned him the gun, and then Hate Girl killed him when she got into the building, dressed as the schoolgirl. He was also in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. And Mark Strong was not only in another Matthew Vaughn stuff, which is the Kingsman. He was in Rock and Rolla by Guy Ritchie, playing a great role there. So at one point, after he got mugged, him and Evan Peters, I don't remember the name of the character, but Evan Peters, they get mugged. They take their phones, they take their everything from them, and he sees a guy in the window. And later on, that guy gets killed by Mark Strong, the main villain. And he's like, nobody's looking, like they see us getting mugged, but nobody's intervening. No, somebody should do something. And this is what gives him the idea of, yes, somebody should do something. And he buys this ridiculous outfit. And he's like, I'm going to be a vigilante and help out. And what I love about this, of course, we have that introduction with Big Daddy and Hit Girl. But what I love about this is he confronts his two muggers, and he kind of gets a licking, but then he gets stabbed in the gut, which is not really great. But every superhero needs to have that moment, right? Every superhero needs to have adversity a little bit. And of course, we have that whole side story with the gangsters getting robbed, and it's the Rush. Somebody sells something to the Russians, and they catch this one of their minions, and he says, "Well, I didn't say it's Batman. I said it's a guy looking like Batman." And of course, they don't believe him. And then after he dies, there's another sale to the Russians, and they're like, "What's going on? We need to find out." And one of the things that comes up a little bit later, of course, after they cook the guy in the microwave, is
that scene.
This.
Who sold you our fucking drugs?
Yeah, the scene where he's yelling at him into the thing.
I don't think he can hear you, boss.
And when he explodes, everybody laughs because they're all gangsters.
Yeah.
I want to touch upon this scene before we do our first game. I don't remember when, but I remember you having a conversation with somebody. Andre, Paul Chato, Gary, or the other Gary. Every superhero needs to have the save the cat moment.
It makes them human.
So we know he is the hero rather than the villain.
Even though he hates this cat, Mr. Bitey.
Yeah. And he has before this, he has a little picture of him, and he's full regalia asking everybody in the street, "Have you seen this cat before?" And he has that moment, and he actually doesn't save the cat, but he has that save the cat moment. And this is something that we have in the Donner Superman in 1978 moment, where he saves the cat, gives to the girl, and the girl goes into the house and is like, mommy, this man flew over and gave me my cat. And you hear like, stop telling lies. So we have that moment with Kick-Ass. And then he actually saves somebody and becomes a viral moment. And this is 2010 YouTube. And this is, to me, I think the first time that they actually used YouTube and MySpace as a pinpoint for how do people know you? How do you get famous? Through MySpace and YouTube. Before even, and Facebook was already around, but MySpace was the king. All right. It's time for a lightning round of Missing Marquee. I say lightning round because I know all the 10 posters, and I'm pretty sure Tom knows all of them. And I don't think he's going to give the chat even a slight chance. So without further ado, Tom, you ready?
I think so.
All right.
Cabaret. Chicken Little. Double Jeopardy. Oh, that's shit. I know the name of it. Trying to think of the name. Ben
Affleck.
I know. I'm trying to think of what the hell is it called? Paycheck
is correct.
Yeah. Resident Evil. Snatch. Star Trek 3 or 09 or whatever fuck you want to call it.
Not 09.
The third one of that one. Yeah. I'm trying to remember the damn name of it. Beyond.
Beyond is correct.
Yes. Silence of the Lambs. Oh, Tropic Thunder.
Correct.
Uncle Buck. I just watched that one not too long ago.
Uncle Buck. I've recently reviewed it on my channel. It just flowed on the page. Let's just say that. When I was writing it, it just flowed on the page.
You guys like this hat? A lot of people hate this hat. It angers a lot of people.
It's just so good. It doesn't have the right to be
You
that
should have
good.
seen the toast. I couldn't get it through the door.
And to be absolutely fair, Macaulay Culkin has a very minor role in this, but every single interaction that he has in this movie is just fantastic.
That's the reason Home Alone exists, I think.
Oh,
And if
yeah,
I remember
I
right,
know.
there is even John Hughes even said he kind of came up with the concept of seeing Macaulay do the thing. And like that whole 20 questions thing, I guess that was something that
That's my
Macaulay Culkin actually did. Like
That's my
he
favorite
just
part of the
lifted it from him. Yeah.
It's
Are you
something
married?
that
Do you have
is
any kids?
from real life, took it to the movie, and that became just my favorite scene. It's like,
What's your record for consecutive questions?
38. It's just perfect. It's perfect. Guys, you should definitely check that movie out. Again, don't have to wait for
Have you ever
for
had
Christmas.
anybody embarrass you this much? No. It's just the timing of the.
It's all about the timing. It's the comedic timing. That's what worked. Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
Saves
Kick-Ass,
the guy
yes.
who, to be fair, the guy he saved was like a gang rival, or he seems like another gang member, but he saves them nonetheless. And you would think it would pay off later, the guy he saved. It doesn't.
Yeah, we have no idea who he is. He could be a piece of shit for all we know. But I think Kick-Ass makes the best point, is it doesn't matter what he's done. It's three guys kicking the shit out of one, and nobody's saying nothing. Right? Like that, and it's kind of the whole point he's trying to make to begin with, is that there's this how bad society has gotten. Not so much just the crime aspect, but the fact that nobody is doing anything or saying anything about it, and everybody's just turning that blind eye.
Yeah, and I was just gonna give a little bit that whole perspective of going on YouTube or setting up a homepage or doing a MySpace page.
How quaint
and
is
all
this?
that stuff? Yeah, it's very quaint and very 2010. But it's sort of placing us in a more modern era rather than just having an obscure era. Like if you go to the MCU, you don't really know what the time is really, because you don't really know. Even when you do the time skip, that 5-year time skip, you don't really know what year it actually is. You assume that it is current year, but there's no inkling. And this one really places you in a very specific era, because there's no reliance on Twitter. Nowadays, it would have been Twitter or X or whatever that they're going to use, or today, definitely not Facebook. So YouTube and Reddit and Twitter, basically. Now, the whole Katie angle, it actually starts when he gets introduced, right?
Yeah.
She looks at him, he looks at her, she says, "Hi, gorgeous," and he says, "Hi back," and he's like, no, because he understands that she's probably gay. But that's the only time that there is an inkling.
I never
of her.
got this inkling that she was gay, per se, I guess. I never thought of that. Is that in the original comic? Because, full disclosure, I have not read the graphic novel since it first came out.
Neither have
And
I.
I've seen the movie like 20 times. So to me, I guess I never picked up on that until you just said it. I always thought she was
said,
straight.
"Hi, gorgeous," to the girl.
So girls say
behind
that
him.
all the time, I guess. I just never really picked up on that. I suppose I never thought she was lesbian. I don't know.
Because I thought he can't get with her, not because she thinks he's gay. He can't get with her because she is gay. And then
Not that I could recall.
she thinks
It was just because he was a loser.
I have no idea, but I love the fact that she
Maybe
thinks
that's like
he's gay.
like a colloquialism thing here, like because girls talk like that to each other all the time, even straight, all the straight ones do. Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, just because she hears somebody, she knows somebody, they think he's gay, she goes out to drink coffee with him, and she says, "Well, I have this ex-boyfriend who keeps bothering me." And I was like, wait a minute, aren't you gay? Like I said, I think it's just me, but I may be like there's so much of it around.
This is the first time I've ever heard anybody say anything about it.
Oh, so really?
Yeah. And that's why I was asking, is it in the original comic? Because I don't remember this aspect of her. Like, as far as I know, she's always... Because that was the whole thing, is he goes to kick the shit out of her old boyfriend.
That's what I'm been saying. I thought
so
it's because she's gay, and then she mentions the boyfriend, and I was like, wait a minute. Is it me? Or is this...
Adam Rice, I guess, agrees with you, so...
I have no idea.
To me, like, girls talk like that all the time in America, so that did not faze me, and like I never once thought she was gay, and I just thought it was funny that the rumors started. Like, that's where the joke came in. I thought was where everybody thought he was gay. Before that, she just didn't give him the time of day because he was a geek. So yeah,
you don't actually know because he doesn't give you anything, and he's mostly the narrator of his own story when
true, but I mean, I guess I never really even thought of that, especially when they introduced the fact that she clearly has this big ass black boyfriend.
Yeah. And
we know the kind of guy she's into. That's the point, I thought. Yeah,
I guess. I mean, she seems like she is pinned as the girl who loves basket cases. That's why she works at this needle clinic.
Well, yeah, not just that,
giving out
but like,
needles to the helpless, and
she ends up fucking him right out back of the store. So like, clearly she's one of these girls who's got a wild side. You know, she's one of these girls that would probably like get like obviously fall in love with somebody who's in prison.
I mean, after this scene when he sees her next, they're both naked, rubbing tan oil on each other.
Well, that whole thing is like
they have tans, and he's like can't even contain himself. I don't know how he didn't jizz all over his pants.
Well, and the other thing is like that. I guess I never really thought of it that way, is because when they first kind of become friends, she even has the embarrassing like, "I've always wanted a friend like you," meaning gay, and she goes, "Is that homophobic?" Like, I don't think a lesbian would even talk that way.
That's what I was saying. I had it in my mind that she's
maybe
gay,
yeah.
that she's a lesbian.
I could see where you could get that, but I don't know.
It just didn't sit well with me because I got mixed messages. Like I said, it probably is just me.
I just took it as the old like comic book typical. She's like Mary Jane, wouldn't give Peter the time of day prior to all of a sudden, and then yeah.
I love this scene.
And as soon as she finds out he's kick-ass, then she really
Oh yeah.
That's what I mean, because it's all about the danger and everything like that. But yeah,
I want to get.
But as soon as she can control him and tame him, see, she couldn't control and tame the other dude, right? Because that was the whole thing. Remember, she said he was going to quit, but he didn't. So that was why they called it off. And then the same thing with Kick-Ass. She goes, he's going to quit. You know, so like, yeah, it was like
exactly.
It's that whole thing, I think. But
I love this scene where the guy, the doorman, just sees two swords with blood on them, and he tries to walk in the door, and he almost gets the jump on her, but Big Daddy saves her with the sniper, and he's just chastising her. You didn't watch your.
I'm sorry, but if I'm a doorman at this point, I'm like, I failed. I'm leaving. And I never make my face shown again.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's like, okay, he's gonna run. No, I know he doesn't run, but he should run.
A smart man would have ran.
Yes. And they have that whole conversation, and she's like, "You really don't know what you're doing. You will get killed." And of course, they have that. There's that moment after he puts on the suit. Way before this, where he's up on the building. Well, he's below in the alley, trying to jump over and get to that wheel, and he can't get it. Then he goes upstairs to the building, and he's like, "I'm gonna jump from building to building." And the first thing that popped in my head is everybody falls the first time. Went into like Matrix mode, and he ran and stopped and was like, "Yes, thank God you're smart not to do
well,
this."
He almost became that kid in the beginning again, right? Like that, because we never even mentioned the opening joke, which is hilarious.
Oh yeah, we can
like, and that joke, because I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into, because I mean, I knew of Kick-Ass when I saw this movie, but I didn't really know much about it. I kind of knew what it was going to be. But this opening scene really set me up for the rest of the movie. It's like, okay, this is a lot to live up to because this is a pretty funny opening gag. Like, it works so well.
Because once the guy drops into the car, you hear him say, well, this was about 3 weeks ago.
He goes, well, that's clearly not me.
Yeah, because that's
this is some nutcase, basically. Yeah.
And to be honest, that actually sets the tone
it does,
of the subtle comedy that is throughout this entire movie.
Yeah.
Everything is sort of semi-serious, not too much serious, because there's always jokes. His friends,
and you get the fourth wall like that, and then you get again when they're like burning up, and when he's like, and if you're gonna be, you think I'd survive just because I'm narrating this? Quit being such a smart ass. Haven't you ever seen American Beauty and all these other movies where the narrator was dead or whatever at the end?
Exactly. Clearly, I'm not dead.
So it's kind of a Deadpool thing, but not, it's not quite that far, but yeah.
Because within the confines of the story, he doesn't actually break the fourth wall. He's just the narrator of the story.
No, yeah.
But this whole scene, like I said, we're going a little bit back, but this whole scene with the comedy undertones, their whole back and forth, you never actually think she's in danger.
Not really, no. And that's what I was saying before about his performance, right? And it had to be Nick Cage, because I don't think I can imagine. I mean, maybe if we sat here for a while and we thought about it and debated back and forth, we could find a handful of actors that may have been able to pull something like this off. But you need somebody like Nick Cage who's just crazy enough, right? And you understand that this guy he's crazy, but he's not going to kill his kid, right? We know Nicolas Cage well enough as an actor, and he pulls it off in the tone of what he's doing. It's picking Adam West was perfect because he has this like Mr. Rogers thing about him when he's not Big Daddy, but as soon as he's Big Daddy, then he's this badass like Frank Miller version of Batman.
Yeah,
basically.
the Batman.
But it's the voice the whole time. It's still the same, And Cage was right about that. Like of the few times where he may have been a little off here and there on some of his choices and performances, as much as we love him, like this was perfect.
There are moments where he slips into the whisper Batman, not really raspy like Bale, more like Keaton. So sort of a low talker, less camp, but then he kind of, it seems like he catches himself and then he goes up to the
well, I think he knows he still has to take it a little seriously. Yeah.
Adam West had that tone in his voice, even when he was not camping it out. He had that little subtle tone in his voice where he's trying to invoke a more serious detective Batman.
Well, him and Shatner have a very similar kind of way they act, right? Like it's not actually acting; it's performing.
Yes.
Right?
It's projecting.
It's not like you're not acting the moment per se. You're telling the audience what they are supposed to feel through the emotion in the words. And that's how both Adam West and Shatner are like, right? And Adam West doubly so when it comes to the Batman character, because when he's in that role, the whole show is a double entendre, right? Like everything's a joke within a joke within a joke. So it's a constant spinning wheel. And for some reason, Adam West was one of the only guys who got that when they did this show, and he knows exactly how to play it. And that is 100% fucking straight. And so even though everything's a joke, it's still this way of how he presents the dialogue. And that's what Nicolas Cage is copying, right? That presence of his dialogue. Like I said, he's not so much acting as he is performing
in front of an audience that is not technically there because it's a movie.
Exactly. And Nick is fully aware of that. He's fully aware that he's in a comic book, but he's not doing the typical, I'm in a comic book, stupid guy routine, because he knows comic books, right? He knows what makes the superheroes the superheroes. He knows what makes the bad guys the bad guys. And he gets that tone. And I think he understood this movie more than a lot of other actors could because of his comic book background.
Yeah, I think it's because of his comic book background where he genuinely knows these characters from the comic book, and he knows what he wants to be when he embodies that role. remember, you know about the Superman stuff, and I thought it was kind of sweet that he got to be technically almost Superman, and in this movie he was almost Batman, but not really Batman. Nice.
And now he's almost Spider-Man and not quite Spider-Man. But yeah.
I have no idea what is going to happen with that one.
Well, he's Spider-Man, but he's not Peter Parker. He's the Spider-Man noir with a different name. It's the version that he was in the movies. But yeah,
yeah. And then halfway through the movie, we basically have that sort of a exposition dump to know who's Big Daddy. Basically who's Hit Girl and that whole situation. And like I said, they go into that.
Well, this character grounds their characters, right? Yeah. So
the story through comic book, really narrated by Cage himself. And he plays it off pretty straight. He just talks.
So we have a narration within a narration, which is really weird.
And he just talks and explains because he's talking within, like, he's a first person, but he's projecting into this comic book that you see. Strange.
So it's third person then, but yeah, and this explains Mindy,
and he
right?
also talks to his former partner as well, and it's weird. Yeah, it's just weird.
Well, and this is where we get an explanation for Mindy, and this is what we were talking about earlier, where we get plenty of exposition and scenes showing us exactly how she was raised and why she can do the things she can do, regardless of if we have to separate just a little bit from reality, like you were saying before, that obviously a child of her size would not be able to do the things that she does for the most part.
It really comes to the very end where you realize, with a little bit of resistance from a guy who knows what he's doing, she is pretty much fucked because they're on equal footing. She learned techniques. She learned how to use her size or her agility. But when you're facing a dude that has been doing martial arts, and it's been set up throughout the movie, he has a dojo, he's training, he knows what he's doing at even at the basic level.
He's basically like Kingpin, yeah.
Yeah, he's got this well, he's got man strength, basically.
That's what I mean. Like, he's very much like Kingpin in a lot of ways, really. He's kind of a Kingpin rolled up with Lex Luthor, mixed with, like, basically your typical prototype of that guy.
Your prototype, your prototype, not super duper villain. Your down to earth villain. He's strong.
Like I said, he's a perfect mix between Lex and perfect mix between Lex and Kingpin, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, he's rich. He's physically intimidating, and he even kills this poor dude who was going up to a birthday party or something.
Well, this is where it shows like Kick-Ass is getting to him, right? Like, and he's starting to lose his cool because he's had all this control this whole time, and now all of a sudden he just randomly kills not only Kick-Ass but the guy you were talking about earlier,
the guy who was looking through the window, and now he suddenly sees this guy just killing somebody
his
else,
first-hand man or right-hand man or whatever is like, you're getting a little out there, boss. You wouldn't do this normally. Basically talking about how he's doing it out in front of everybody in public and shit like that. Yeah.
And of course, they don't know where to turn to next. But of course, the son is coming in, and he, from the get-go, knows that his dad is some sort of a criminal. They keep talking about the business, and he can't, talk about the business. He can't. And he even says, Dad, in 8 months, I'll be 18. So just...
Here's my one issue with the movie, okay? It feels like there's either some deleted scenes or they rushed the idea of him ended up liking Kick-Ass too fast. Because the way that the last part of that film breaks down, because he comes up with the plot, which I have no problems with. The plot works, everything like that. But you go because then he figures out that Kick-Ass isn't the one killing everybody. So he goes to set up Big Daddy and Hit Girl. And then as after Hit Girl gets shot and Big Daddy's being drug away with Kick-Ass, he's like, no, he's with me, don't hurt him. It's like, 10 seconds ago, you were still willing to set his ass up and didn't give a shit. Now all of a sudden he's your best friend. Like, it feels like there's some pieces missing here where we didn't see them just hanging out a little bit more and actually getting to know each other and liking each other. Because, like, it's even kind of the same thing when the way Kick-Ass reacts to his tons of emails. It's like, dude, you barely know this guy. Like,
yeah.
And he's acting like it was a best friend he missed a bunch of emails from. Yeah.
And remember, the first time they actually meet, they don't meet. This guy goes into the comic book shop with the bodyguard, the big black dude.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's something missing here. Like yeah.
Yeah, so he knows him from school because he's the rich guy. Nobody talks to him. He's been alone. We're all alone. Nobody talks to us. Let's bring him into the group. Plus, he's rich, so there's no any other way to look at it. We want to be friends with the rich guy, and he goes to talk to him, and the bodyguard's like, "Please go away," and they don't really have any interaction.
Yeah, that's kind of funny because it's like, does he even recognize him then after that? Do they think, does he know who he is? Right? Like, I mean,
and
they never really address that either.
And they only have that alley conversation where they technically meet in the full regalia for the very first time. And that's about it.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. So, like, it feels like there's a bunch of little pieces we're missing. Like, the movie works, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it just feels like they must have lost a bunch of bits somewhere to tighten up the last half of the movie. So, because otherwise I'm like, these guys don't hang out enough or get to know each other enough for them to be this friendly and for them to trust each other enough like this, and for him to have that sudden turn at the end the way he does. Because otherwise it's like, why does he give a shit about Kick-Ass? Because his whole plot from the start was to try and get Kick-Ass to get his father's good graces, right? Like, that's his plot. Like, that's his goal.
It's his golden ticket to get into the business. Because he's throughout up to the point where he turns into the Red Mist, he wants to be in the business with his dad. He goes into the dojo and tries to, get him going, and he gets cleared out. No,
we never get a point where he's like, oh, I kind of like Kick-Ass. I wish I didn't have to set him up. And then all of a sudden, luckily, I got this footage now. It's not Kick-Ass. And then you see like maybe 2 or 3. All we need is maybe 2 or 3 more scenes of them hanging out. And that what I just explained, where like he's kind of having this kind of thing with this tug of war of, I don't really want to set Kick-Ass up anymore because I kind of like this guy, right? Because they have a lot in common or what have you. Because even in the car scene, it's like they have nothing in common. He's sitting there smoking a joint, and Aaron Taylor Johnson's looking at him like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, what the fuck are you doing?
And it just struck me this time. I never really paid attention to it, I guess, before, but this time I noticed that. I was like, that's a quick character turn for him that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, the joint thing, I didn't get why. Plus, you can tell that's like the first time ever that he does that because he doesn't hold it correctly. Plus, it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, he's just trying to look cool.
For that.
Yeah.
There's no setup for that. Then
that, or you just had to have a scene after that where they're just like chit-chatting and stuff, and he's like you just said, he's like, I really don't smoke pot and stuff. I was just trying to be cool and all like that. And then Kick-Ass is just like, you don't have to try to be cool. You are cool. You're Red Mist,
You're Red Mist.
And them having just like this guy moment, just enough to kind of see that they have more than just this. Because otherwise, as far as I'm concerned, he consistently throughout the film until that moment is ready and willing to expose or set up Kick-Ass just for his own benefit.
Yeah, exactly. It's just to score points with his dad. I can't.
I mean, he's even the one who comes up with the idea to unmask him on fucking camera and shit the first time, right? Which gives him his dad the idea, right? So, like, yeah.
And because he set up the teddy bear in order to unmask Kick-Ass. That's why he went for the teddy bear in the first place. He just didn't know there was going to be a fire there. But
yeah, and that, because does he even really? Because here's my thing too. I'm trying to remember now because I just watched it, but I'm trying to remember because the movie is so fast paced. That's the other thing.
It is,
and that's why you kind of ignore the problems as you're going through it.
And the problem is there's lots going on. Plus, you have that extra thing with Katie. There's a lot of information going on. The movie is like 2 hours long.
So I know he does tell him that there's other superheroes, but does he tell him that they're the ones that took out the drug dealers?
No,
Is that
the setup is before everything happens, before he goes into the red mist, his dad sits with his lieutenant, and the lieutenant gives him the phone with somebody took a picture of Big Daddy from his back, so they don't know.
That's right. Oh, that's right. Yes.
They don't
So they
know
have
who
an
it
idea,
is,
but yeah.
but they know it's not Kick-Ass because they know how Kick-Ass looks like. They just killed a doppelganger. And
because this is what I was saying.
Gives him the phone. He's like, "Oh, wait a minute, this is not him."
But is Red Mist aware? Because that's the thing. Because at this scene, after this scene, is where Red Mist lets him know aware that he knows that the other guys are the ones who did it, right? And he knows that Kick-Ass wasn't the one that killed everybody.
Because they were sitting in the car talking, but they don't. What's missing for you is that they don't talk about the other superheroes,
right?
And once he gets out of the car, once he goes back home and he talks to his dad and the lieutenant, he says, well, Kick-Ass mentioned there's other superheroes around.
Yeah. See, yeah, it kind of comes out convoluted, and that's where you should have had a scene where I said they're just sitting down and talking, and he says, like, yeah, there are all these other superheroes. In fact, I get credit for killing all those drug dealers when I didn't even do it. It was Hit Girl or whatever, or whatever, just says something to those lines, letting Red Mist know, because then that gives Red Mist the idea that, okay, I can get Kick-Ass out of this mess, and because he's my friend now, by setting up Big Daddy and Hit Girl, since they're the real problems anyway. But none of that's in the movie, right? It's there, but it's not like you don't have the emotional beats of seeing Red Mist going through that transition to get to that point where he's kicking and screaming, going, no, he's with me, he's my friend, blah, 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 like that shit.
But the thing is, if you don't dive deep into it, and he just says it, well, Kick-Ass just said there are a couple of superheroes, that's the real issue. He just says it, and that's how you know.
Right.
And you just keep going with the movie,
and I said it works
because it jumps from one to the other to the other.
And that's what I'm saying. I didn't think about it until this time, really. And that's what I was saying, is like, I'm sitting here going, now, wait a minute. Red Mist's story doesn't add up as much, because it should. You're just missing these little key moments, and I wonder if they just didn't make the cutting room floor or something like that, was, I guess, what I was thinking.
And of course, when he hooks up the nanny cam, the first thing you see is the nanny in the shower, basically. She is covered
what he's been using it for.
The movie, I think the movie is PG-13. To be fair.
No, I'm pretty goddamn sure this is R.
Is it R?
Because the first thing you do is got 11-year-olds saying cunt, and then you got
yeah. It's the blood. Yeah.
She says fucking shit and other things plenty of times.
I just thought, well, it's not. Well, there's no nudity. Basically, there's the girl.
It doesn't matter when you got a kid swearing, and when you got swearing is one thing, and when you got a kid swearing, that's a whole nother thing. Like the MPAA looks at a little bit more harsher, at least in America. Because I know that was always a big deal with Bad News Bears, because there was a lot of kerfuffle over whether or not that should have been R or not, the original.
When was Bad News Bears? 80.
The original came out in the 70. Oh no, fuck. The first one came out like 76, somewhere in there. Because like they did them like 3 years in a row.
I get confused because there's so many like little.
The original Bad News Bears, the original Bad News Bears came out in the mid 70s
with Walter
Matthau, yes.
Okay,
and I'm pretty sure it carries a PG rating. Although today, and proof of that is in the remake, which is almost practically verbatim of the original film, that did get a PG-13. And they even took out some of the worst shit. Yeah.
Sandlot was 79.
No, Sandlot was like 93.
See, there's so many like kids with an adult coach who was a fuck up.
Oh yeah. The Mighty Ducks and the Sandlot.
There's so many of these different
all those were in the same era, but like, no, the Bad News Bears was the one that kind of invented that. And then from there on out, you had like so many copycats. You had the first few dozen years that they had copycats. Then it kind of fell off in the mid 80s. And then in the 90s, it kicked back up again with things like Mighty Ducks. And crap like that. And then you got a bunch of the Mighty Duck clones, which were basically Mighty Ducks. All that was a clone, a Disney clone of Bad News Bears. But yeah.
Just on ice.
Yeah.
So there's a point here when Big Daddy understand, well, he talks to his ex partner, and he's like, yeah, they're on to you, dude. There's already feelers out there. They're on to you. And he turns to Hit Girl and is like, well, it's time to go for the big guy.
It's
and
now
she's
or
like,
never,
oh yeah. She just throws a ninja star on his fucking head, which tells you a lot about the Hit Girl. To be, if you didn't understand up till now, the fact that she's online and she's looking for something, and Big Daddy goes behind her, is like, what is this?
$300,000.
$300,000.
Oh, but it's so pretty.
It's like, we've got money, order it. And it slowly builds. I love the fact that it slowly builds up.
What would you rather spend the money on, I think is what he says, but yeah.
Yeah. They open the crate and you don't see the whole thing. And you just see the two mini guns. Vulcan guns. And like, oh shit, we're going to have some Predator on our hands here.
He said, that was before I added the Gatling guns.
It's just the build up to that thing and the big reveal is perfect for me. Where is it?
It's also kind of that also kind of calls back to the scene where he asks her what she wants for her birthday, and she's like some doll and some other thing, and she's like, I'm just fucking with you, daddy. And that I actually want 2 butterfly knives. Or a butterfly knife, and he's like, "Oh, geez, thank God, I'm gonna get you too."
And so and that's a little role reversal. And this is like the subtle comedy I was talking about before, where they play on your expectations and they break it because it fits within the world that you're presented. And
not only that,
you're with it.
The dynamic
totally
is
with it.
Okay, so like look at way he's acting and talking. He, like I said, he does the Adam West thing, which almost makes him like this Mr. Rogers figure of sorts when he's talking to his daughter, right? But she has the mouth of a fucking sailor.
Yes.
Right?
It really doesn't fit with his character, where he's like this goody two shoes guy, and his girl is like, yeah, well, fuck this. Let's fuck him up.
Nah, I'm just fucking with you, daddy. I actually want knives.
It's just that little subtle comedy that just keeps you in the moment, because you're just, next one is just jumping in back to Kick-Ass, and he's trying to surprise his girl and tell her the truth. He's like the old Spider-Man and MJ reveals, like, look, it's me, it's me. Don't worry, it's me. It's Peter Parker. It's like, yeah, I'm not Kick-Ass, but also I'm not gay. And she's like, you're not gay?
And she turns into Niagara Falls more so, I think, the fact that she learned he was Kick-Ass than anything else. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Because that's where I see it coming from. She's a thrill seeker who likes to tame her men. That's what I saw her as,
Yeah. Why don't you?
Well, because they're constantly having that conversation too. Which one do you think is cuter? Remember, before this, they keep having that conversation. Which one do you think is cuter, Kick-Ass or Red Mist? Kick-Ass or Red Mist, and all that stuff. They keep having that, and then finally afterwards, she's like, "I'd fuck the shit out of him right now, or whatever, fuck his brains out." That's what she says. Yeah,
and that's what makes him decide. Well, she does that in front of his friends later on. And
that's what I mean. It's a payback to that. But like I said, before this, you have like the 2 or 3 conversations where they keep going the back and forth deal, setting this whole thing up. And that's what I said. So that's how I saw her character, right? She's that kind of woman who either seeks out the bad guy or the rough guy and wants to tame him, right? Because and that was kind of her inhibitions kind of going out the window when she's talking about Kick-Ass after they've already had sex, right? So that's the joke. So she's like, I fuck his brains out. Like, and she's never spoke like that in the entire film. Get it? Like that. So again, like, to me, it's like, okay, that's what she is. And then next thing you see her, she's out back fucking him outside. And she's the one fucking him, right? Like, it's,
Oh yeah. And to be fair, even the dad is like, are you okay?
You're getting some pussy, aren't you, son?
Yeah. And he's looking at him, and because you look different. And he's looking at his dad's like, Dad, I'm really good. And the dad immediately understands it and closes the door. He's like, yeah, I know that face. I know.
And I got to give this movie credit because it sets up so many places where they could have done the age-old kidnap the dad, kidnap the girlfriend, kidnap the friends, use them as hostages, and they don't.
Yes.
Thank God. Right? Like, I mean, they become the hostages themselves. And that's what's funny is they become the damsels in distress.
Yes.
And Hit Girl has to save them.
Because the whole setup is Red Mist understands, he saw the videotape. He knows that Kick-Ass is just not their guy, but he's the key to getting them to, to die or to grabbing them and getting rid of them. So he's like, how do you call them? And in this point, how do you call them? How do you contact them? And Kick-Ass is like, no problem. We'll get going. And they do manage to. There's
a special phone number. You call the mayor and he sets up a light. It's in the size of a giant cock.
That's what she says to Kick-Ass before they leave.
I know. And that's what I'm saying. How could you ever think this movie was PG-13, man? Like,
I don't know. I just thought.
Everything she says is like, I could see the MPA just going, check. They are not getting an R rating. Check. This is NC-17. What did that child just say? Like
I love that moment where he prepares himself for the end battle, but it doesn't come because he gets nabbed. But you realize everything that it takes to make this whole thing work. Even the fake mustache handlebars thing down to the T.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought for a second. I don't know.
No, it works.
The B thing, it's our beta site or whatever as a hiding place. I like that. It's a nice little detail. It's a comic book detail, even though I'm not really a comic book guy, but I do know some things. Is the B, that's the beta site. That's not the main site. Just tells you.
And of course, he leads Red Mist right to it. But yeah.
Right to it. And I love it when she's at the window and Big Daddy is like, just behave yourself. And before she can actually get out of the window, Red Mist is like, okay, this is me proving myself to my dad. So he takes 3 shots. I think he hits her only once or twice.
Once or twice, but like it's of course a payback to the opening scene.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a nice little setup and payoff that you got there. And then they both Kick-Ass and him get nabbed. And of course, the bodyguard takes the bazooka and he's like, I always wanted this. And they have that conversation at his dad's loft. It's like, look, he took the bazooka. And the bodyguard looks at the dad and is like, is it okay? It's like, of course it's okay. And that's a nice little setup and payoff for later, which is just, it's just too perfect.
Bazooka.
It's just too perfect.
A bazooka.
The whole bazooka thing.
Okay.
And the bodyguard's like, I always wanted to say this. Say hello to my little friend, but he can't get a shot off just because Kick-Ass got the old whatchamacallit? It's the James
thingy.
Bond backpack thingy.
Yeah.
It's sort of reminiscent of that jetpack with the turrets. All right. Let's just stop here. For a second, I know Tom needs to go to.
Pretty soon. I know. Whenever we wrap this up here,
we can wrap up quite early. We've covered most of the movie, but I want you to play our next game, which is Screen Fighter.
Round 1, fight.
You wouldn't miss it for the world.
No.
And I've got something special because we start off with a pretty decent pair. What is Screen Fighter, you might ask? Screen Fighter is where we take 2 movies, pit them together, and see which one is the best one. If there's no discernible difference between the two, both of them are good or both of them are bad, we fall into our criteria, which is Saturday evening, Friday evening, out with the boys, out with the girls, out with their significant other. 2 movies in a vacuum. Which one will we pop in? The Quick and the Dead, Gene Hackman, R.I.P., or Red Dawn. Chat participation is most welcome. Just say the name of the movie. We will give you the reason. I will give you my reason. I'm going to go with The Quick and the Dead. Now, The Quick and the Dead is not a great movie. It's not a great Western, but it has a lot of great elements in it that make it work. Gene Hackman as the main villain is fantastic. I rewatched it recently because he died. I watched that. I've watched Unforgiven. It's a bit of a slog. And now I forgot the name of the submarine movie with Denzel.
Hunt for Red No.
Not Hunt for the Red October.
Red
the
Dawn.
other one.
No, not Red Dawn.
Not Red Dawn. Red. Yeah, I forgot the name. Literally,
Crimson Tide.
See, Red. Crimson Tide. Holy shit. I need to see, you need to see it if you haven't in a while. It's fantastic. So The Quick and the Dead, there are not so good elements in it, especially with Sharon Stone, and her entire arc is convoluted, to be fair. The movie is way better than the bomb that it did in the theaters.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one. Funny enough, I have not seen Red Dawn in so many years, but I did just watch Quick and the Dead. And the thing about The Quick and the Dead is it feels like cut scenes from a video game.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like a real movie necessarily, but it is enjoyable as hell. As far as rewatchability, I don't know. As far as like what one is what,
they're both really good. Like Red Dawn is a really good movie. I just haven't seen it in a long while.
I guess culturally, I'd have to give it to Red Dawn. Red Dawn was the one that kind of stuck around. Like most people kind of forgot about The Quick and the Dead until sadly Gene just passed, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he did that other Western too." Besides Unforgiven. Yeah, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah," and Sam Raimi directed it, and Leonardo DiCaprio's in it. It actually had a strong female protagonist. Oh yeah, Quick and the Dead.
Yeah, but her entire arc is so convoluted.
The whole thing is convoluted. Like I said, it's one big video game, basically.
It really rests. The biggest and best scenes are the duel scenes, but the setup for the duel scenes is a little bit weak. I absolutely loved it. I don't know. I just loved it. So you're going with Red Dawn?
Cultural impact, I think I got to give it to Red Dawn, but Quick and the Dead is definitely when you can hang out with buds and get drunk and eat some pizza.
Chat is a bit quiet, so I will give it to you. We'll go Red Dawn just because of the iconic nature, and I don't know what that helped. The Nice Guys or Francis Goes to the Races. I have not seen Francis Goes to the Races.
I have the Francis movies, but I haven't seen it yet, or at least I don't remember it enough.
Is it like the Ernest movies?
Francis? Oh, it's a talking mule. Yes. Scrooge has got to run away with this one on mine. Nice Guys is a decent film, but Scrooged is a perennial classic. I mean, one of Bill Murray's best. Quotable, endlessly quotable.
Scrooged doesn't deserve to be as good as it is.
Yeah,
it's
you're not wrong.
Really good. It's just really, really good.
Yeah. Oh, Beetlejuice versus Rosemary. This is a
original.
Hell of a... Now, Rosemary's Baby would be one of Beetlejuice's favorite movies, see? So...
Probably. Probably.
I got to give the edge to the OG Beetlejuice for the impact that it has, I guess. But Rosemary Baby is not one to sleep on. It's a hell of a movie.
Being not like, I enjoy some of John Cassavetes' stuff. I know it's iconic. I didn't enjoy Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, and I don't think you're meant to enjoy it. It's very much.
I didn't enjoy the film of it, you know, as like just looking at it as through a critical eye. Never really my thing. Beetlejuice, as just Michael Keaton holds.
Let me put it to you this way: I agree with you in a sense that
small little part of the movie.
Rosemary's Baby did not hold up as well as like The Exorcist did, for instance, in a film that's very similar. So like I agree with you in that respect. Yeah. No. Well, speaking of the Hunt for Red October,
original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which I have seen. a long time ago in film class in high school.
I actually watched it not too long ago, but
it's not a bad movie. I would go with The Hunt for the Red October. It's probably recency bias. It's
honestly,
so
I don't
good.
think I've seen The Hunt for Red October since the 90s.
Really?
90s. Yeah, I think
really
I
worth a
have it
rewatch.
somewheres, but
If you want to do yourself a favor, do Crimson Tide first, and then The Hunt for the Red October. They are up. Their premise is very similar, but they take two different routes of getting to the same point.
well, isn't this the first of the whatchamacallit movies where Alec Baldwin played the character and then Harrison Ford played him or whatever, and then like in Clear and Present Danger and all that shit? Jack Ryan or whatever, yeah.
I think so. If that's
Because if
Hunt
it
for
is,
the
I
Red
have this
October.
movie. Well, that's
Hunt for the Red October.
That's right here. That's what we're looking at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to give it to that, I don't know. I haven't watched it in years, but yeah.
Of Mice and Men, or the King Kong movie from
The King of Kong.
2007, The King of Kong. That's not really a movie. That's
a documentary.
That's a documentary. So we'll go with, I haven't seen it.
I've seen it. It's good.
I've seen it too. It's about Billy
balls.
Mitchell and
What the fuck? I got to give it to Tarantino on this one. I don't care.
yeah, this is not one of my favorite of Tarantino's, but I would go with Tarantino. It's just
Although Mice and Men was still pretty good. It was.
not.
There's so many different versions of that.
Yeah. Baby Driver or The Sword in the Stone.
I enjoyed Baby Driver, but Sword in the Stone's a classic.
I'm not a Disney guy, but I would give it to The Sword of the Stone. Didn't
Well,
grab
it's
me
one of
by
the
the
few
balls,
ones that
Baby
boys
Driver.
could watch as a kid too. That's what.
And to be fair, if it was Drive, I would go with Drive. It's totally different movies, just the Drive thing. Come on. You know what will happen? It'll give us two movies and then it'll jump. See? I knew it.
That's a weird poster for Weekend at Bernie's. What the fuck?
Yes, and I haven't seen Kinds of Kindness.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's a new movie.
Oh,
All right.
Platoon. Ooh.
Weekend at Bernie's, or What Did I Do with Biden This Weekend?
How do you
or
do this?
Oliver Stone's Platoon.
These are so different, but they're so good.
You want me to start?
Go for it.
Even though you're like, okay, this is a weekend, just want to put on a movie and eat some popcorn, you would probably go with Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah.
But I would actually go with Platoon and watch a really good, serious movie. Because they're both really good. One for the comedy, one for the sort of impact it has on you emotionally. I would go with Platoon. It's just
the problem with
Defoe,
Platoon.
Berenger.
I
even
love the
Charlie
film.
Sheen.
But my
good.
problem with it is what you just said, though, is that I might watch Platoon once in a blue moon. I'll watch Weekend at Bernie's any day of the week. It doesn't even have to be a weekend. Like Weekend at Bernie's is one of those movies that's like if it's on, I'll watch it. I don't have TV, but like if I were flipping through, it's just one of those movies, right? So, God, and it's probably in one of my top 25 comedies of all time. Right now, Platoon's up there, right? But it's not nearly in any of my top films of all time lists. So maybe war films. War films, definitely, I guess. Yeah, but I mean, we're getting real niche there, I guess. Then,
but I would click on Platoon because we've got Sander Hammerschlag giving us the
I
old
guess so.
heave ho. Monkey Jeebus says Weekend at Bernie's, based on a true story. Perhaps
It might be.
Might be. We don't know. Well, we do know, but we don't know. Anyway, all right. Let's do a quick wrap up because Tom needs to go. And we kind of discussed everything, but that last there's two major moments. One is Kick-Ass and Big Daddy get kidnapped. And of course, Big Daddy gets burned. And Hit Girl does probably the best she could do in the circumstances. But she
basically takes on the whole mob, yeah.
And in every single moment where she's stuck, she hears her dad's voice telling her, oh, this is what she should do. And she does that because of her training, because it fits with the character. And she does everything, but she can't really save him. But he's fine with it because he knows she completed her training, sort of a Jedi kind of a thing. And he knows she's going to complete the job and avenge the mom, avenge his revenge story because he went to prison because, of reasons and corrupt cops and all that stuff. But Kick-Ass comes to his own as he decides to help her out. They literally drive away. They have that, rapport of she knows what to do. She tells him that she knows what to do. They go into Alpha Site and he gets cleaned up. And she introduces him to the 300,000, which, again, we don't see yet, but it does come to fruition as she says, I'm just going to go because I need to complete the job because my dad told me to complete the job and get the revenge, and you're welcome to join in. And he decides, yeah, I'm going to join in. And then she goes apeshit. She literally goes apeshit. Distracts everybody with the small, tiny schoolgirl crying. She just wants to call her dad, and she just kills everybody there. And as she leaves the elevator, she's already in hit girl mode. There. And she takes on now, I love this because they found the best song for that corridor fight, and that's Joan Jett, Bad Reputation. Is it Bad Reputation?
Pretty sure I think it's Bad Reputation, yeah.
But that's a perfect little song to sort of get that ending done. And of course, she gets stuck. She's got ammo. She's getting fired, gonna be fired by the bazooka. But of course, it's Kick-Ass to the rescue. And Tom, if you have to go, just go. I'll finish up. It's not a big deal. So get Kick-Ass to shoot everybody, use the thing, and then of course save the day after she gets her head kicked in and body and everything. I want to get to that point with uses the bazooka. There. Of course, he shoots the villain, the dad. I don't remember, is like D'Angelo or something. He shoots him and it explodes midway through. And this is sort of like the origins of Red Mist, the villain. And in this, I think in the second one, is he still there? I'm not sure. I haven't watched it in a while.
I think so. I haven't watched it since it came out. Yeah, it's not as good as the first one. It's okay. It's
got Jim Carrey in sort of a substitute role for Big Daddy, but not real Big Daddy. It's all convoluted.
It's only, and I think it's again loosely based, I think, on the sequel comic, but yeah.
And we do get him sitting behind his dad's desk, watching.
Wait till they get a lot
them
of me.
Fly away. Yeah, watching them fly away. And of course, we've got the wrap up where you see Hit Girl going to school. Wait, I've got this. Yeah, Hit Girl going to school. And the bullies are like, yeah, give me my lunch, give us your lunch money. And she's like, Really? Not really. And just to wrap everything up, we've got this, which is this is classic to me. Classic.
Oh yeah,
comic
that's
book
right.
stuff.
As Monkey Jeebus said, he changes his name to Motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's a nice little wrap up. It's like, yeah, I've turned from the sort of superhero into the super villain, and that closes up the show and sets up technically a sequel, but not really. And that is really it. Thank you, Tom, for joining us. Do you want to plug any of your channels, something?
You can find me on Midnight's Edge After Dark, all those places. I'll be heading over to Geary's here in a bit to talk about
yeah, I'm going to redirect everybody to Tom and Geary over on Pop Culture Minefield. So stick around. I'm just going to wrap up. So thanks, Tom, for joining me, and I will just continue on with the show. So thank you. And we'll see you soon, I guess. Right?
Yes, I think I'm going to be on again here pretty soon for something.
Yeah, we've talked. Well, I'll remind you about the Andre thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see on that. Yeah. All right. Talk to you later.
Stick around, everybody. I'll just wrap things up quite neatly with a bow. I really enjoyed the movie. Really enjoyed the rewatch. I had a big laugh while watching some stuff. Like I said, I don't normally kind of invest myself in kind of checking out all the different actors and stuff, but the Evan Peters thing, the fact that Aaron Taylor Johnson was Quicksilver and Evan Peters was Quicksilver had me giggling while they're doing their mutual scenes. It was just a fun little tidbit that has nothing to do with the movie itself. It's just a coincidence and how things work out and all the casting in Hollywood and stuff. It's just, that's how things work. But as we finish up this movie, I want to remind you that next week we also have a show, and it also is involving a graphic novel. And we mentioned it right here on the show. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you're willing to give us a try next week as well, go to watch Zack Snyder's Watchmen from 2009. And join us next week, and we will talk about that all ordeal. We'll talk. I'll promise to talk a little bit the differences between Alan Moore's Watchmen and Zack Snyder's Watchmen, as in the novel and the actual movie. Sorry, because there is a little bit of a difference especially in the end, and we'll talk about how that affected what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, all that good stuff. So go watch Watchmen this week and join us next week for another edition of the Reel McCoy podcast. And remember, guys, hope is a good thing, maybe even the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. See you next week.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.